Welcome back to the Adam Schefter podcast. The week we've all waited for finally is here. I see Ty Schmit clapping his hands before he knows what time it is. We all know what time it is. We've waited for this throughout the entire long, cold, dark offseason. But the light is here. Football is back. The season kicks off Thursday night. And to help us get started with the start of the 2025 NFL season, we bring in the co-host of the Pat McAfee Show, my friend, my colleague, Ty Schmit, the man who leads us on the weekly six-pack.
Thank you very much, Schefty. Hey, we did it. We are here. Listen, it was a great weekend of college football, a nice little appetizer, but now we got the main course on Thursday and this weekend, and I don't think this is hyperbole. This is the most excited I've ever been for an NFL season. I truly could be the happiest man in America right now, and let's get right into it. I am the happiest man in America, maybe in the world, actually, because when we go to the first topic of this week's six-pack, it's Micah Parsons. I tried to will this into existence. I ultimately didn't think it was going to happen. You said on this show, on Pat's show, hey, the Cowboys and Micah, they're headed for a divorce. We don't know when this is going to happen. It could be after the season. It could be before the season. We're not sure. And then, boom, Micah gets traded to the Packers for 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. Looking back on the whole thing now, what do you think of that whole situation?
Well, before I look back on it, Ty, I want you to look back on it because there was video of you all over social media literally losing your mind when it happened. There were F-bombs, there was foul language, there was jubilation, there was the type of excitement reserved for special moments in life. So before I answer my questions about Micah Parsons, I want to ask you what was going through your mind with Micah Parsons when that trade went down.
Like I said, in my fanhood, in terms of being a Packers fan for my whole life, there have been moments like this several times over the last, 35 years where a premier player, an all-pro player, their name will kind of get floated. Hey, the Packers might be interested in this guy. This might be someone they go out and get. I remember back when Randy Moss was available and the Packers were talking about trading him, things like that, but ultimately it never happens. That the Packers are a draft and develop organization. They very rarely take these big swings. But the more you were reading the tea leaves and the more, information was coming out, it was like, okay, we might have something here. This actually might be for real. And in terms of just where I'm at excitement-wise, I went from, hey, the Packers are going to be just as good as they were last year. 10-7, 9-8 is probably their floor. They're going to make the playoffs, but are they good enough to stand up with the truly elite teams in the NFC and the AFC? I didn't really know. Now, after getting Micah Parsons, I'm firmly in the, hey, if Jordan Love plays the way everyone's expecting him to, with maybe at like an MVP caliber level this year, trading for Micah Parsons makes them a legitimate Super Bowl threat. So now I've went from, hey, they're going to make the playoffs, it's going to be a fun season, to here we go, Super Bowl or bust.
Where was that specific moment when you got word that the Packers were trading for Micah Parsons? Where would you rank that moment in your list of all-time memorable Packers moments?
Top 3. It's got to be top 3. Just for that is the position they've needed a premier edge rusher. And listen, Rashawn Gary's a great player, but they've needed a guy like this. I mean, it's funny how once he gets traded, everyone who was potentially gonna, a fan of a team who maybe was gonna get Micah or a Cowboy fan, they downplay how good he is immediately. Hey, you can't pay this guy this much money. This is gonna be a terrible contract in the years to come. You look at his stats, like this guy is gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So for them to trade for him in their prime, I would rank that right under Rodgers leaving and Favre leaving. Like I think it's right up there. Now, granted, some people would say Reggie White, Charles Woodson. Reggie White, I was very young, so, and obviously the NFL wasn't followed as closely then as it is now, so maybe not quite as much. But I think if you're a Packers fan, you would have to put that right. I mean, this is the biggest You would be a better person to ask. In terms of the magnitude of this trade, is this the biggest NFL trade in close to a decade, if not longer?
I would say that it's akin to the Khalil Mack trade, because when the Khalil Mack trade went down, when the Raiders traded him to the Bears, Khalil Mack was performing at a level very similar to Micah Parsons. And what was interesting is that situation resembles this one in the sense that Khalil Mack all along didn't show up, didn't practice for the Raiders all summer, said he wanted to be traded. The Raiders were adamant that they weren't trading him. And lo and behold, on the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, the Raiders traded Khalil Mack to the Chicago Bears. Micah Parsons obviously asked for the trade, couldn't get the contract done. And on the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend, the Cowboys send him to the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm trying to think of other trades. There have been other big trades. Travis Hunter at the draft this year with the Jaguars going up to number 2. We could think of the Carolina Panthers going up to number 1 for the pick that turned out to be Bryce Young, that gave Chicago extra draft ammunition that turned into Caleb Williams plus. We could think of other trades. The Washington football team at the time going up to number 2 to get Robert Griffin, which was a huge trade at that time. And I'm sure I'm missing other trades because there have been any number of them through the years. But in terms of what's included in the trade and the significance of the trade, this is right up there. It's right up there. And what's interesting is you're talking about how much you like it now for the Packers. And it is hard not to like it. The Packers last year went 1-5 in NFC North games. So they need to figure out a way to beat their division, catch the Lions, who they open with on Sunday, need to find a way to beat the Vikings, hold off the Bears, who may be much improved with Ben Johnson as their coach. So they had to do something. And I can tell you this, the level of excitement in Green Bay is through the roof, as it should be. We hear your voice. We hear the voices of Packers fans. They have an elite pass rusher in his prime, and one of the rules of football is you don't ever trade away a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, and you don't ever trade away an elite pass rusher like the Dallas Cowboys just did. The flip side is that just like the Bears paid the price for a long time on Khalil Mack and what they gave up, the Packers are going to pay the price for a long time on Micah Parsons. I'm not worried about the picks. I worry about the long-term cost because the Green Bay Packers are going to have committed to Jordan Love, Micah Parsons, and Rashawn Gary somewhere in the neighborhood of $125 million against the cap. And I can tell you there have been other people that have raised the question to me. Can a team pay 3 players that much money over time and not have it impact the rest of the roster? And there are smart people that I spoke to who told me it's impossible. It's absolutely going to cut into their roster, their ability to pay other players. And so all the joy you feel now, which you should because you landed an elite pass rusher, you landed one of the players who is one of only 2 players in NFL history to have at least 12 sacks in each of his first 4 seasons, the other being Reggie White, who you know a thing or two about. You landed an elite talent. But the bill is going to come due at some point financially. They can get by without the picks. That's not going to be the issue. But the price that they're paying for him and Love and Rashawn Gary, not to mention some of these other guys like Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs, can't pay everybody. They're top heavy now. Real top heavy. More top heavy than most other teams. And so that becomes challenging. But when you get the chance to acquire a player like this, to take a big swing, it's hard not to do it. And we talked about the excitement in that organization. There was one member of that organization I had been talking with for about 48 hours leading up to the trade. And when I went to him initially saying that I think that your team's really in this, he's like, I couldn't think about anything else. They're trying to get ready here for the opening game against the Lions, and they're consumed with whether or not they're getting Micah Parsons, who now is a Green Bay Packer. So, again, nobody could ever argue, debate, question, but there is a flip side to this. There just is. And it's a lot of money to pay. And if it was so easy to do, more teams would have lined up to trade for the guy. So the Packers are going to try to make it work. And you know what that does? That puts even more pressure on the front office, Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, the rest of the front office, to find these good young rookies who can perform on rookie contracts, who can make it more viable, possible to carry and pay Micah Parsons.
Yeah, and I think if you're a Packers fan, like you, I understand all of that with the money, because obviously that bill is gonna, come to head eventually. But if you can win a Super Bowl in the next couple years here, then I think you borrow from the future to ensure that you have success right now when you have your quarterback paid, you have Micah Parsons. But that's the ultimate thing. It'll be a time will tell situation, because you're right. If they don't win a Super Bowl and, then we fast forward a couple years and they're paying three guys over 50% of the cap, then yeah, you're in a tough situation.
Let me tell you the other interesting part about this. We talk about the fact that they have essentially mortgaged part of the future for Micah Parsons now. Somebody else raised this point to me. They're like, you know why they did this? Well, again, Ed Policy takes over as the president of the Green Bay Packers. And what's fascinating about this is, back in 1992, I believe it was, the Dallas Cowboys made a trade with the 49ers for Charles Haley. The man that traded Charles Haley was the 49ers president and CEO, Carmen Policy. Carmen Policy traded Charles Haley to the Cowboys, and Jerry Jones and others around the Cowboys organization said that Charles Haley was the missing piece that enabled them to go on the Super Bowl run that they did, and they wouldn't have won Super Bowls without Charles Haley. Well, now, fast forward some 33 plus years later, and Ed Policy, Carmen Policy's son, is the one who trades for Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys, the type of pass rusher that Charles Haley was. The point I was getting to, though, was Ed Policy also so far has declined to extend the contracts of general manager Brian Gutekunst and head coach Matt LaFleur. So in a way, they're not worried about the future, because they're trying to secure their extensions now. So when Brian Gutekunst is giving up draft picks, and we're talking about the cap space that this is going to be an issue with, they're not overly concerned about that right now. They're concerned about winning this year and proving themselves worthy of another extension, right? So they're all kind of tied together in a odd sort of way. Now, I'm sure Brian Gutekunst would never admit that. Matt LaFleur would never admit that. But if you haven't been extended at times when you ordinarily have been in the past, and there is some question as to what's going on, and there's a new president, you're not thinking about what's going to happen in 27 or 28 to your franchise so much as you're thinking about what's going to happen in 25 to your franchise. So, again, they get Micah Parsons, but there will be a cost, and the general manager and the head coach know, not that they're on the hot seat, but they want to win now. They want to prove that they belong there long term.
And I think that's a good thing. I think having that type of pressure going into the year, because LaFleur's been very successful. People have, been very complimentary of Brian Gutekunst as well. But again, this is Green Bay. This isn't Arizona. Going 10-7, making it to the playoffs and getting embarrassed in the first round, like that people don't care about that, and they don't care about winning division championships. Certainly you want to, but it's about winning Super Bowls. And I think for everything to kind of get recentered around that, and like you said, hey, there's no point in thinking about 2 years from now or 3 years from now. Let's go out and let's win this year. I think that's good for the Packers going into this year. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's move on to topic number 2, Schefty. And let's take a first glance at the Thursday night opener. We have the Cowboys, who now have a Micah Parsons-sized hole to fill in their defense, and the Eagles, banner night. What do you think of this one?
Well, it's really interesting, because if we go back to essentially when these Thursday night home games started for Super Bowl champions in the early 2000s, since 2004, defending Super Bowl champions are 15-5 in their first game to open the NFL season. The Eagles won in 2018 when they were defending their Super Bowl title then. They're trying to do it again now against the Dallas Cowboys. And again, I think both teams have major question marks. How do the Cowboys respond without Micah Parsons and with Kenny Clark in the lineup manning the defensive tackle spot? You heard after the trade was made for Micah, and it keeps coming back to Micah here, Jerry Jones talked all about stopping the run and how important it was to get Kenny Clark. What better test is there to see how your run defense is going to hold up than on Thursday night against the defending champions, Saquon Barkley, Mr. 2,000 yards himself, Jalen Hurts, Mr. Tush Push himself. Can your run defense that you just invested in, that you just traded away your franchise pass rusher for, can that run defense step up? Now, the other interesting flip side of this is that if the Philadelphia Eagles have a question mark going into the game, it might be their secondary. They lose Darius Slay. They have Quinyon Mitchell, but we really don't know exactly how that other cornerback spot is going to hold up. And what did the Dallas Cowboys do during the offseason? They went out and traded for another David Mulgeta client who is headed into the last year of his contract, and we could see where that one's going to go. George Pickens playing opposite CeeDee Lamb. How are the Philadelphia Eagles going to hold up in the back end when they need to slow down the strength of the Dallas Cowboys in CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens? And if there's a way for the Cowboys to win this game, I would think it would be through the air. Let's keep in mind that the Eagles swept the Cowboys last season. They haven't won 3 straight against the Cowboys since 2003 and 4. Last year, Dak Prescott didn't play against the Eagles. This year, he will. This year, it'll be up to Dak to basically be throwing footballs all night long at the Eagles secondary to see if they can hold up to his 2 great wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. So we have a Cowboys run defense that needs to hold up. We have an Eagles pass defense that needs to hold up. And the unit that doesn't hold up on Thursday night, I'm going to guess right now, will be the one that walks away with an L.
I think that's a safe assumption. It'll be interesting to see because as I've looked at this game, the more I think is from the Dallas side, I guess either they're going to come out with something to prove, I think, because we've heard all the, hey, Micah's happy, we're happy, like we're in a good spot. We're ready to move on and be done with this situation. So I think they'll either come out guns blazing with something to prove, like you said, through the air. Dak looks amazing, CeeDee and George Pickens, and it's like, wow, this offense is really something. Or I think we could see them very dejected, and the Eagles' first drive, they just run it right down their throats, and it's like, oh boy, here we go again. But I think you're right. I mean, that's the Eagles are going to try to run the ball and kind of dominate time of possession and everything, and I think the Cowboys are going to try to score points. So at the very least, I think we should have a very, very entertaining game to open the season.
And how great is you're going to sit down on your couch Thursday night, put on the game, and we're locked in. Thursday night football for the rest of the calendar year. Football Sunday, football Monday. Like I tried to tell my wife, she's like, oh, there was football last night, Monday night. Yeah, North Carolina, TCU. I'm like, yeah, get ready, honey. Here it comes.
Yeah.
Because it's on the rest. It's on all these other days the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly. And let's move on to topic number 3, because that's one of the best things about the first week of the season is we get the Friday night showcase game in Brazil between the Chargers and the Chiefs. What do you think about that one?
You know what I find fascinating about this one? Think about all the time we've spoken about Andy Reid when given a bye, when given time to prepare. Well, the Chiefs are really tough in the opener to begin with, right? And they're really tough in divisional games. You realize Patrick Mahomes is 35-5 in AFC West games? 35-5. Do you realize the Chiefs have won 7 straight games against the Chargers? 7 straight. The 3rd longest winning streak versus their division rival in franchise history. And now we've got a game where Andy Reid is given more time to get ready. He's so tough in these spots. Now, I do think the Chargers should be better with Jim Harbaugh in his second year, but I go back to that training camp below. You make Rashawn Slater the highest paid offensive lineman in football. You lose him less than a week later, days later, to a torn patella tendon. What a devastating blow. Now they moved Joe Alt over to left tackle. Joe Alt is unbelievable. They put in Trey Pipkins at right tackle to take the place of Joe Alt, who moved to left tackle to overcome the loss of Rashawn Slater. And I just think the Chiefs have something to prove coming off last year. Lost the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, I think, is going to play great this year. But when you have an Andy Reid coach team with a lot of time, that team is dangerous and tough. Now, Jim Harbaugh's teams are always like that. But something about the Chiefs in this spot, I think you just have to look at them and just say, this is where they shine. Plus, by the way, it also happens to be the third international game in Mahomes' career, and they've played the Chargers in 2 others. And the Chiefs also in those games, 2-0. They just don't lose to the Chargers. They don't lose internationally. They don't lose games where they have time to prepare for. That's Andy Reid, right? That's what he does.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, I agree. I think the Chiefs have a lot to prove, especially coming off the tail end of the kingdom here, the documentary, kind of just reminded everybody, like, hey, tales of our demise have been greatly exaggerated. Like, we're still here, okay? We made it to the Super Bowl last year, in case everyone forgot. I think my biggest thing with the Brazil game, just based on last year and watching the Packers and the Eagles play in it, I just hope nobody gets hurt, because that field was such an issue. The footing was bad. Guys were slipping around everywhere. And obviously, Jordan Love hurts his knee on the last play of the game, and that kind of, sets up for the entire season in that regard. But, it just, I really hope because it's so much different than playing on a field in the United States. They got to get it ready so quickly. So I just hope that no one gets injured and we get out of that game and back on, flights to the United States healthy.
Good point. And let me also point this out, Ty. Thursday night, Cowboys-Eagles. Friday night, Chargers-Chiefs in Brazil. Saturday night, Michigan-Oklahoma. Sunday night, Bills-Ravens. Monday night, Bears-Vikings. So starting Thursday night, oh boy, it's a lot of nighttime football, a lot of sit back and don't bother me, right? Like, we got football on here for the next 5 nights. I know my wife is really looking forward to this.
Yep, mine too, and I can't wait. I cannot wait. All right, so with that in mind, let's look at let's move on to topic number 4 and look at this upcoming weekend as a whole. When you look at all the games, all the matchups, all the primetime games, what stands out to you the most?
Well, there's so much. How about we have Pete Carroll, who's going to become the oldest coach in NFL history? How about we have the fact that your Indianapolis Colts haven't won on opening day since, 2013? They've lost 11 straight games on opening day, or have not won a game on opening day because there was a tie mixed in there. How about we have the Saints? Would you have ever guessed that the Saints have the second longest active opening day winning streak? They've won 6 straight games.
No.
Yeah. So that's going to be on the line on Sunday against an Arizona Cardinals team that's lost a few openers in a row. How about Cam Ward, the rookie number 1 overall pick, going to Denver? Could there be a tougher assignment in week 1 for a rookie quarterback than Cam Ward going into Denver to play the Denver Broncos? Like that is just a brutal matchup. How about the Buccaneers and Falcons, right? The Buccaneers have won 4 straight division titles, which has been incredible, and the Falcons are the team trying to overthrow them. How about Joe Burrow and the Bengals, who have been atrocious in regular season opening games? They've been terrible early in the year, not being able to get it done. How about the Steelers and the Jets? First time in history that a game will have 2 teams in the opener that have starting quarterbacks that were on the other team the year before, right? Like, that never happens. How about the Giants and the Commanders, where I think right now, and I could be wrong, Ty, I think the Giants are going to be better than people think. And last year was a magical year for the Commanders. And I know they have an incredible quarterback. What a quarterback Jaden Daniels is. But it may be tough to keep that up. How about the first matchup between former number 1 overall picks Bryce Young and Trevor Lawrence, both who have had some tough times going up against each other and now squaring off? How about Sam Darnold making his debut for the Seattle Seahawks? Micah Parsons making his debut for your Green Bay Packers. How about Matthew Stafford being expected to start? All those questions about Matthew Stafford's back injury, and here he is starting. And then, of course, we mentioned the Ravens-Bills on Sunday night, the Bears-Vikings on Monday night, and there's going to be some kind of storyline from the first week that we couldn't even forecast right now that's going to happen, and we're going to be talking about something else on this podcast next week.
I mean, that's why this time of the year is the best, because not only do we have all those incredible matchups week 1 and great storylines to look forward to going into the games, but like you said, there's going to be 4 or 5, guys or teams that really surprise us. And come Monday, we're going to be like, oh, wow, should we have been talking about so-and-so more in the offseason leading up to this year. Like, it's bound to happen. Not only that, the fantasy superstars who are going to rise over the weekend, kind of out of nowhere that, no one really thought they were going to be massive players, and they will be. It just, there's so much to look forward to. There's so much hope. Man, I'm just getting more excited and more excited the more we talk about this. It's the best. All right, Schefty, let's move on to topic number 5 of this week's six-pack. Without further ado, do you want to give a Super Bowl pick?
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. My Super Bowl pick for this upcoming season, my Super Bowl pick is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I don't think are talked about nearly as much as they should be as one of the stronger teams in the NFC, versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, again, the Chiefs are on a mission. The Buffalo Bills have a point to prove and are ready. Their last season in Highmark Stadium, like, it would be a great story. I could see that. I think the Chargers and Broncos have a chance in the AFC to compete. But I just think there's something about the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and that offensive line and a tough defense. Just think that they've been so close, like Buffalo has, that it just feels like Baltimore could be ready to break through. And Tampa Bay, look, there's a reason that we haven't seen a repeat division winner in the NFC East in 21 years. It's tough to do. So the Eagles are certainly good enough to do it. We'll find out whether they can. But the chances are, history says they won't. Okay, so if they're not repeating as division winner, the NFC North is just chock full of teams, so many good teams. Your Packers with Micah Parsons might be good enough to do it now. We'll find out. That's what we're about to see. Lions had a great opportunity last season. Really good team. Vikings are good. And in the West, the Rams are tough. The Vikings, the 49ers are a little bit beaten up. I just think the Buccaneers have the fewest amount of question marks of any NFC team right now. Just my feeling. We'll find out. That's the great part about playing these games right now.
I love that pick. I really do. Because I agree. What was it, a couple years ago that in the first round of the playoffs in Detroit, they took the Lions right to the brink and ultimately got beat. But offensively, they can hang with anybody.
Oh, yeah.
They can score points on anybody. And being in that division, it's a little bit better than it has been in years past, but that's also a massive advantage. In all likelihood, obviously, if they're going to go to the Super Bowl, they're probably going to win their division. There's a chance that they have home field throughout the playoffs. Like, that is a possibility. And yeah, I mean, I agree on the Ravens front too. There are a handful of teams in the AFC where if you said, hey, they're going to win the Super Bowl this year,
exactly,
you wouldn't bat an eye. And the Ravens are 1A or 1B of those teams.
So who's your Super Bowl pick, Ty, before we go on to topic 6?
I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm going to be a homer. Micah Parsons fever is it's infected me big time. I'm going to go Packers over Bills.
Listen, by the way, could I see Packers Bills? Absolutely. Would I be good with the Packers Bills? Absolutely. I'm picking the Ravens, but I went back and forth on the Ravens and the Bills, and Tampa just kind of stands out to me, but I made that pick before the Micah trade, and Green Bay is a more dangerous team today than it was when I settled on the Buccaneers. So your Packers Bills pick might be right for the Super Bowl.
We'll find out. Like you said, that's why we play these games. That's why we're gonna watch, for the next 20 weeks or so. I really like that Buccaneers pick, though. I definitely do. All right, Schefty, let's move on to the 6th and final topic of this week's six-pack. This week, we kind of celebrated 2 media legends. Obviously, we had Corso last week with his final headgear pick, which was just phenomenal. If you didn't watch it or you haven't seen it, I would strongly recommend you watch everything that happened in Columbus on Saturday. And then we got Woj this week.
Well, here's the deal. So last week, we'll start there. Lee Corso's retiring. And I was thinking to myself, I don't think that I've ever met or spoken with Lee Corso in my life, ever.
Wow.
Amazing. I've worked at ESPN for over 16 years now. Lee Corso's been there since forever. And I don't think our paths have ever crossed because College Game Day is on the road. I'm in Britain. Why would they cross? So last week, I think it was on Thursday, I got his number, I sent him a lengthy text about what a great run he had, how loved he is, how respected he is, what a tribute, how everything is so deserved, and we're big fans even though we won't be there, thinking of him, da-da-da-da. I sent him the text. I go to sit down at dinner. My phone rings. Five minutes later, it's Coach Corso himself giving me a call to thank me for the text. I mean, what a gracious man. In a week where he had so much going on, we had never spoken. He doesn't know me from Adam, literally. And he was kind enough to reach out and call me after I sent him a very nice text, and that was kind of cool. Now, this week, our media honoree is Adrian Wojnarowski, my good friend. He is being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame this weekend. I don't know how this works, because there's a ceremony Friday night, there's a ceremony Saturday night. I'm going to the one on Friday night in his honor. I don't know whether he goes in that night because it's at the Mohegan Sun or Saturday. I just don't know the timing, but I know that he's on my mind, Woj. I love the guy. He's my dear friend, and I'm going up there on Friday night. And again, we talk about this crazy week. We're taping this Tuesday morning. Tuesday night, I have to do SportsCenter at the U.S. Open. I'm bringing my son. We're going to stay at the U.S. Open. Wednesday night, 2 fantasy football drafts. Thursday night, start of the season. Friday night, Woj being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Saturday night, one of my best friends from college, daughter, is getting married, kind of like in upstate New York. Got to drive to that wedding, come back, and Sunday morning we start the season. This week has always been one of those weeks that's circled. But Woj getting his honor on Friday night is such a huge deal. I'm so excited for him. It's so deserving to get that. Lee Corso gets honored last week. Adrian Wojnarowski gets honored this week. Just a pretty cool thing the way all this is working. And this week, Todd, like back to school, back to football, back to the night games, back to routine, back to all the things that we know and love, back to everything this week. Right, Ty?
Yeah, without a doubt. It almost feels, hey, listen, I love summer. Okay, I love getting in the pool with my daughters and spending a bunch of time with them. But it does, for what we do, it kind of feels like you just push pause on your life for a while, and then football season gets here and it's like, all right, let's push play. Let's get back into the routine. Let's get back to what we're used to, because this is the best time of the year.
I said to my wife on Sunday, this is the final Sunday that I will be off until late February.
Yeah.
And I've had a few people say, well, how does that make you feel? Like you're all excited, right? I'm like, I am excited, yeah, but I also feel like I'm stepping to the starting line of a 26.2-mile marathon, and I know that there's 26.2 long, hard, grueling miles ahead. And yes, I'm excited to run that race. Yes, I've run the race 35 times before, but that doesn't mean that there's not a part of that you're a little bit uneasy knowing all the running and sweat and torture that's ahead these next 26.2 miles, if that makes sense, right?
That makes a bunch of sense. And I think that's why we love it. We might be gluttons for punishment. I don't know, but it just every week something else. And yeah, we're in it now. I mean, we waited so long. It feels like just yesterday we were, right after the draft talking about, oh, wow, look at all this. Hey, the season's close. Training camp's going to be here before we know it. And now here we are, and we have an actual football game that matters on Thursday night.
Well, Ty, we're looking forward to it. I certainly appreciate the time today. I appreciate Dan Stanzik, our producer, tuning in and putting this all together. Thank you to all you listeners for tuning into the Adam Schefter podcast. Please rate us, subscribe to us. What is it? Give it to me, Ty.
Subscribe, rate, and review.
Subscribe, rate, and review. Please subscribe, rate, and review to us. Certainly appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great week 1. Welcome back to football.